Odette's part of a small board that takes care of this orphanage right now, and she lives in Winnipeg. And yeah, here she is.
God bless you all. Good morning. God is good. And all the time. I always do that with my grandkids because I see so many young people here. Yeah. My name is Odette Mukole, as he said. I'm from the Democratic Republic of Congo because he said the Republic of Congo. There are two Congos in Africa, Republic of Congo and Democratic Republic of Congo. They are neighbors. And the capital city for my Congo is Kinshasa, and the other Congo, the capital city is Brazzaville. So they call us people from Kinshasa or people from Brazzaville. That's the difference. I wanted just to make that clear. So I came from Congo in 2000, January 2000, January 11, 2000, first snow in Canada. So that's the time I came here. And why did I leave the Congo? Because I was not safe there. Because I was leading a group of women to know their rights, and that was not taken well with the others. So I had to leave everything behind and just come to Canada with my 3 daughters. That's the reason I'm here. And, Tu dois bien parler clairement, s'il te plaît. Home, we speak French most of the time because in Congo we speak French, and here in Canada, my work I speak English, but home, every time when I go home, I try to speak French even with my grandkids. So bear with me if you feel my strong French accent in my English. I'm sorry for that. So when I came here in Canada, I had to go back to school because they couldn't recognize my degree from the Congo. So I went back to CMU and spent 3 years and get a degree in social science. And since then, when I graduated, I started working with newcomers at the Family Dynamics. Later on in my life, why did I start the Mukanzo Orphanage? If you have to go there right away. It's in 2008, my father, Mukanzo, he passed away. He went to the Lord. And in 2009, people started calling me because when my dad was working there, he used to help so many people, mostly young people when they're going to school, paying school fees, helping with any issues that they could have. But when my dad was no longer there, people started calling me in 2009, sometimes like 7 phone calls at night. And remember, with the time zone, when it's 1 a.m. here, over there it's 8 a.m. And imagine from 1 a.m. to like 6 a.m., I got 6 phone calls. After a week, I called my mother. I'm like, what's going on? Why are people calling so much, asking for money? Did they hear anything about me, that I have a bank here or what? And she said, oh, but if they need help and if you can help them, why not? But I told her, no, Mom, that's not how it works here. I have bills to pay, and it's not easy. But then after, one time again, I remember probably 2 weeks after, we were talking with Mom, something happened to me, like a vision, like, Mom, I think I need to start an orphanage. Because when my dad passed away, Mom went to the capital city staying with my sister, and the house where I was raised was empty. So I'm like, can I use the house to start an orphanage and then help all those kids instead of helping just one at a time? And my mother said, yeah, it sounds like a good idea, but the thing is, you're too far. How are you going to manage? You can't do that. It's really a lot of work. You need to be there present to run an orphanage. And then I was like, okay, that's fine. And then after probably a month or so, people were just still calling. And then I felt like, I have to do something. Another day we were talking, I was on the phone with my mom again, and she was talking about one pastor who was really committed at his church. He had discipline, and he was helping people. And I asked for the phone number. She gave me the phone number of that pastor. And I spoke to him, and then I shared my vision with him, and he said, yes, I can help you. And that's how we started. And I gave him the criteria how to select the orphans in the area, because there were so many due to war, to so many things happening, Ebola, and so on. Can we move to the history, please? Can we go to, yeah, that's, yeah, let's go the next one, please. The video, please.
Chisache fokubawo yewatali tulibafu encha enunji esembedde eyatwagala ennyo kukomawo ela chisache fokubawo yewatali tulibafu tulivuga wa muna mukuru ebangali tulima mukuru chirivera chasuso kumaso goyeya twakala wewafa.
Je suis content de vous voir.
Eve Vunda, okay. Bande la kolo?
Papa kufa, mama kufa.
Okay. Posa no eza nini?
Posa ingeza na tank.
Loba makasi te?
Posa ingeza na tank.
Depuis que nous étions venus ici à Mop, vous nous soutenez en payant les minervales et nous mangeons, nous sommes à bonne santé, nous vous remercions.
amazima kwe swaza sitani osalewo yeluichi wekuno bangakomyewo
Solatido, ti, la, so, do, solatido, solatido, ti, la, so, ti, so, ti, do, re, ti, la, so, do, do, mi, re, do, la, re, so, do, ti, ta, la, mi, re, do, la, so, la, so, do,
Well, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity again. I would like to emphasize one thing that I didn't mention, that in each project, it's always challenging when you start. That was the very difficult time for me. Like when I started the orphanage, I had a vision. I started, and at the beginning, who were helping me to fund or to get money for the kids to send over there was just my family, my children, and some friends. And I didn't know at that time that when you get a donation in Canada, you have to give a tax receipt. So those were things that I had to learn. And one day, I remember after 2 years of running the orphanage just with the single pennies that we were getting and sending that little bit of money there, I was really dry, completely financially dry, in red. I couldn't do much. Then what happened? One night, I went on my knees. I cried to God. Every time that I think about that place, I'm always in tears because God is so faithful. I cried and I said, Lord, I'm done. This is your work. I can't do it myself. I had a vision, and I knew that you'll support me through this vision, but now I have no way to do it. I went on my knees, I cried, and I was really completely wet with my tears, and the mucuses on my nose, and said, Lord, this is your job, just take it. But I'm really in pain because I didn't know that I can leave these kids like this. My opinion, my vision was just helping these kids until they grow up, and then they have families, and then they are people in the society, giving back to the community. Now I can't do it. Guess what happened the next day? I went to my work. One of my colleagues, Heather Rochen, who's now our manager, she's the best friend to Elizabeth. She told me, My children are going around raising some funds for the orphanage. They're going door to door asking for loony, toonies, so that they can get some money for the orphanage. Kids here, I went crazy, like teenager, like you got something like a diamond. Yes, I serve a true living God. God is real. God. And she said, why are you going so crazy? I'm like, crazy indeed. Oh, you know, here in Canada, at the office, you can talk about Jesus. You can talk about something else, but you can't talk about Jesus. That's what I learned in Canada. But back in Congo, we talk about Jesus anywhere. Even the bus, you can shout, you can preach people on the street, but not here. But that day, I went just crazy like in Congo. Lord, you're so good. You're so wonderful. You answer prayers. And she asked me, I said, yesterday I was crying on my knees. And I surrendered this orphanage to my God. I said, I can do it. This is the answer from God. So from that time, kids were going around, and the goal was to raise $250. But the Lord of multiplication, they ended up raising $2,500. That's why I call God for the Mukanzo orphanage. In my language, local language, Lingala, we said the orphanage is from God, Isaiah Nzambe. Isaiah Nzambe. Mukanzo orphanage, Nzambe. That means Mukanzo orphanage is from God. So it's from that time that I get connected to Elizabeth, who will share with you what we do at the Mukanzo orphanage here in Canada. So, and then we start organizing ourselves. And these kids, those kids you'll see in the videos there, they start organizing the Willathon at the end of every last Sunday of June, having the Willathon where kids, they come together, and then they give a donation of $10. And you know, when kids come, they come with parents, uncles, and everybody. So they were raising. Yes, and then that's how it was so wonderful to see how God works in mysterious ways. And let's go to education. We do so much for the orphanage, but with the slideshow, you'll see it. Please.
Chakubibwa mukulu Yesu cheyazima Singambatene biwawa Ngabamalaika Nandibuse nandituse Elimusayuni Ele nyumba zachosona zilinganga zabu sezisinga zona dala ezizimiwa abantu Yesu mwaliye mukama abafuga bona bamalayika be yaza ngabamuweereza singambatene
Well, we have 37 kids that we're taking care of. Yeah, go ahead.
Is this on?
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. I'm Elizabeth, and I've been working with Odette for about 10 years. Just a comment on, as you see, we were a little pressed. We couldn't afford a bus, but they make do with what they have, and they tend to fit. There's no safety regulations for how many kids fit into a vehicle, so we have pushed the boundaries on that just a little. They don't usually, the kids are split up into morning school and afternoon school, so we don't usually have that many kids in the van. But it is kind of interesting to see how there's no car seats, no boosters, nothing like that. The other thing I wanted to point out with education, Odette, you can correct me on this, is that I think roughly 1 in every 3 kids in the Congo has access to an education. So for these kids, education is a huge deal. It basically means life or death. And so these families will come to our doors and drop off kids because we can't afford to give them an education. And they have 2 parents saying, please take our child because we can't afford to give them an education. Unfortunately, we can't take those children because our criteria is a little different than that. We look for kids that don't have parents. But I just wanted to emphasize that education is no small deal in the Congo. Okay?
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, thank you. So we have 37 kids that we're taking care of, and plus 1 disabled lady who had 2 kids there. In total, that's 38 people that we're taking care of right now for that part. Let's move to agriculture, then probably if you have some questions, please wait at the end.
So you'll see here that they're taking the corn off of the cob, and they will be using this to put into a grinder to make that with cassava root will make their daily fufu, which is what they use as their staple. So they grind the corn, they grind cassava, and then they make their daily staple of fufu. So one thing that's interesting about this video, do we have any farmers in the group here? We must have a few farmers, right? Okay, so I'm a city girl. I do not know a lot about farming. But when I look at the videos of the corn that's been planted, it seems to me it's being planted very far apart. The corn is like 18, 24 inches from one stalk of corn to the next. And my husband's parents live in Altona, and I see how the sunflowers are planted and various things are planted, and it's certainly not 18 to 24 inches apart. And so I think that if we could get some farming expertise, we could get so much more corn than we currently have. It's kind of interesting because we have so much land. We have, what, 600 meters deep of property and then maybe 50 or 100 meters wide. And that supplies us a huge amount of corn for edible and for grinding, but we could get so much more if we actually planted the corn in more of a Canadian type of efficient planting system. This little boy here is watering our kitchen garden. We hired a little gardener, what am I saying? We hired a gardener. I don't know how tall he is. He's a grown-up. And he planted and has been helping us with a kitchen garden, which is literally right outside the kitchen. You and I would think of it as a fairly sizable garden, but there is what they plant, their spices, their tomatoes, their, not their corn and their big stuff, but their zucchini, their eggplant. Eggplant is tomatoes, onions, of course, onions, and that is what the kids eat out of. And then I guess the kids must be helping them. At one point we wanted each kid to take a row, but you know how it is with kids in gardening. You really have to be on them. So we did hire a gardener who's helping us with the edibles for day-to-day living.
Yes, and they are still working on the corns because it's taking so much time as they're doing it with hands and then depending on...
and it's kids doing the work.
Exactly.
If I put my kids to decorning corn, like that would take forever, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a fast process.
And yesterday I spoke to Eve Vunda, the girl that we saw in the video. She was explaining, and I asked her, so you taking the lead on this, so how far are you guys? When do you think you can finish it? She's like, probably a week, and then we'll have, and how many bags? Maybe 5. So she's not sure it's taking so much time, but I think that's what we have to do right now for...
It's children that are doing our harvest when they're not at school and not doing their homework, and we have obvious limitations in the system and with planting and harvesting. But it is nice to see them all out there doing their part, kind of like a family farm.
Yes, we'll see on the 5th part when they pray. Sometimes I pray with them, and then I was talking to them 3 days ago, and I asked them if they are okay, keep doing it. They were like, yes, of course. We're doing it. We promise. We'll keep doing it, and then we'll finish it. And I was just happy to hear what they were saying and committed themselves. So let's go to the next, the laundry, and then we'll see at the end when we have some time for people to ask questions.
This is them doing the laundry, but you'll see these big blue bins. Those are our water reservoir bins so that we can collect rainwater. They're very shy. It's nice to see them smiling because sometimes when you take a photo, they're laughing and then they all go serious very quickly when they know they're about to have their photo taken.
Older kids, they help the younger ones when they're taking care, like when they're washing the clothes, because the small ones, like my grandchild here, they don't know how to do it, so they are really nice supporting each other.
The kids grow up so much faster there than they do here. We let our kids get away with, I think, far more. The kids take on responsibility here at a younger age, it seems, in general.
Yeah. Let's go to the next, please.
Ukweli hazielezeki, wengine wanazipata, nami zinyenyeshe. Nami zinyenyeshe. Nami zinyenyeshe.
The kids are learning to make their traditional holiday outfits. We had a massive donation from a woman in Kinshasa who gave us a lot of fabric that the kids have been using. This is from your very own Melissa Fraze.
Yes.
We'll talk more about the menstrual hygiene later.
And that book in French from Melissa, they were so happy to have it since it's in French, they can learn.
It's hard to get anything to read out there.
So we have the trainer, the sewing trainer, who goes there three times a week just to teach our kids how to sew.
I think she was a home ec teacher for some time, if
Yes.
I'm not mistaken. Where are
Yeah.
you, Melissa?
So they are learning, they are so happy when they are practicing. Let's go next because time is running out.
It took us years to be able to provide the children with something to eat at breakfast. For a really long time, they had one meal a day and a cup of tea in the morning, and many of these kids had to walk over half an hour to get to school. We finally purchased our first bread oven, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, and we hired somebody to help them, no, not even, maybe 4 years ago, we hired somebody to help them learn how to make bread. And then we did a fundraiser for butter and peanut butter so the kids would have something to eat on their bread.
That's how they make fufu that Elizabeth
That's
was
the
talking
fufu,
about.
that's right, which is corn and cassava ground up. They each take a big ball of that on their plates for supper. Yeah, it looks very dense, right? It's just recently that we've started incorporating a little bit more meat into their diet on a regular basis. And for the longest time, we could only give them like a small piece of chicken on Sundays. And here, the women there are having caterpillars. And so caterpillars are a big source of protein in their diet. So once a year when they are in season, we buy, I don't know, whatever we can afford, 2, sometimes 3 bags of caterpillars.
2 in 6 months.
In 6 months?
Yeah.
Okay. And do they stir fry the caterpillars? I made my children eat some caterpillars that I found downtown in an African market, and they were not too impressed with them. Beans, of course, is a big part of their diet. And those are everybody's favorite Congolese donuts. My kids go nuts over those. Once a year, we send out money for a Christmas party. And this, in fact, was when we moved into our new facility. So this was our grand opening party. And each kid gets 1 bottle of Fanta. And so they get 1 or 2 bottles of Fanta per year. And this is a huge treat for these kids. There's Odette.
That was in June of 2021.
2021? No,
2022.
2022, that's right.
Yeah.
What are those?
Salted dried fish.
Ugh, okay.
They're tasty, Elizabeth.
They're tasty?
Yes.
Okay. I guess the salt helps. We designed these cleaning troughs so that lots of kids could wash their dishes at the same time. So they're about, 10 feet long, and it's dual sides with taps on both sides so that the kids can do the dishes, and it doesn't all have to go to their adult workers. If every kid does their own dish, it goes a long way to cleaning up after a meal.
Yeah. Let's go next, please. Healthcare. Oh, okay.
Odette was donated a few chickens when she was there, and those are, I guess you could call those free-range chickens.
Yeah.
Do they produce eggs? Do they produce eggs? Yeah?
Yes, yes.
It's so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take him at his word, just to rest upon his promise, just to know.
What are the main illnesses that our kids are having right now, Odette?
Malaria.
Malaria. What else?
Typhoid.
Typhoid.
Yeah.
One of our kids just had their appendix out. But we've had several kids with malaria. And that was an infection he had. They are so intent that we understand what's happening that they send us pictures like this of the surgical operating room. We've seen the appendix. So some of you might want to just not look at that part. They're very intent on showing us every procedure.
Yeah.
This is the aspirin that you guys sent out.
Yeah.
Aspirin or Tylenol, I'm not sure. Because they get headaches just like we do, but they don't have anything to take for them.
Yeah. Let's go to the next one, please.
These kids are devout. It's very inspirational to watch them praying for something. We could probably learn from them in our Mennonite churches.
From Monday to Saturday, they pray at night, like before going to sleep, from 8 to 9:30.
Every day?
Yeah, Monday to Saturday, because on Sunday they have two services, one in the morning and then one in the afternoon.
My husband was in the hospital a few years ago for a pretty bad burn, and the children of Mukanzo took it upon themselves to pray for Mr. Andrew while he was in the hospital, and it was absolutely incredible to see the videos of these kids praying for Andrew. And I'm sure that's the reason things went as well. The doctors told us he would have contractures, he would be in the hospital for weeks and needing skin grafts, and he didn't need any of that, and we were out in 9 days with no long-lasting effects.
That they're praising God for the miracles happening where they're praying. Those who are laying down there, it's just spiritual things happening to them, and then somebody prophesizing, and it's really amazing to watch what is happening there.
And the little kids learn a lot from the older kids. When Andrew was in the hospital, we heard that Mukanzo Orphanage was praying and fasting for Andrew. And I sent the message, please, no fasting. We've done so much work just to get the kids 2 meals a day. The last thing we want is for them to start fasting. That's our administrator, Adeline. She also helps a lot taking care of the children. I'm not sure what the chair is doing.
Just to show the excitement. Let's keep moving. That's a new facility. Please keep.
We have just about
go to
8
the
minutes
next one.
left, so we're going to try to squeeze a few more things in. This is baby Irene. She's very small. I don't know if you can see, but her mother was a teenager and
14 years
passed
old.
away. 14? 14 years
yeah.
old, and she passed away when Irene was a wee baby. And so the grandmother here is soothing Irene, trying to breastfeed her.
Yeah, this is the donation from Mukanzo Church here. Thank you so much for the funds that you sent to buy these items for baby Irene. We are still waiting for her to come back. They went to get her because her grandparents, they went to the funeral to bury her mom. So they are not back yet. So we are still waiting for them to come back so that we can welcome her at the orphanage.
2 girls from our orphanage, they are 17 years old. They are taking turns caring for baby Irene. If I think of my daughter who's 19 years old and Bible school, university, that just wouldn't happen here. But these 2 girls have said, yes, we want to bring baby Irene into our orphanage, and we will take care of her. One goes to school in the morning, one goes to school in the afternoon, so they are taking turns taking care of baby Irene. Like I said earlier, these kids grow up so much faster than our kids do here.
And at night, Hungula, the caregiver.
Hungula, our caregiver slash cook slash everything.
Yeah, she'll be spending the night with her. So let's go quickly to the next one, please. This is time for questions. Okay. Yes. Any questions? The finances, then we can see. I have paper at the back there in the foyer. There's the background of my history, how I founded the Mukanzo Orphanage, that you could find out there. And then we have also the monthly support pledge outside that you can put there.
Our monthly donors are the rock stars of Mukanzo Orphanage. We couldn't do it without them.
And also for the livestock, we have this outside also. You can find so many.
So there's information about monthly donors, livestock, any kind of way that people want to get involved, we welcome it. We're so grateful when people come alongside of us in this work. It's only 37 kids. I mean, it's not the millions of kids that are starving and orphaned in Africa, but we are trying to do one little thing, what we can. We have to focus on what we can do and not the people that we can't help. It's the only way you can sleep at night.
Thank you so much for having us here. Any questions? Yes? Yes, please.
I don't know if you are sticking around for the church service that's coming up next, but I'll talk a little bit about that. Every year, up until COVID actually, my daughter, when she was 9, and her best friend Lizzie, Madeline and Lizzie, they started these Wheel-a-thon fundraisers, and we had 7 of them in total, and they ended during COVID, and also the girls grew up. At the last fundraiser, the girls said, you know, Mom, or Lizzie and I are very close too, because I feel like she's another member of the family. We think we're done. We think that this ship has sailed. We would love to find some kids to pass the torch to. And I know Madeline and Lizzie would love to mentor them, because they've done this 7 times. The girls would go door to door. They would get lots of newspaper articles in our local St. Vital Lance. They would get sponsors and funders who would give prize donations. And so we would sell raffle tickets. Or actually, it was more like a Chinese auction. We would put whatever they wanted. They could choose their prize, and then we would pick. The very good odds of winning a prize, very good odds. And those wheel-a-thons, we had a funder that really loved my daughter. He was related to me, let's just say that, but he's asking to remain anonymous. And he said, Madeline, this is great. Whatever you raise, I'll match it. And so with our matched funds, I think we made anywhere from $2,000 in our first wheel-a-thon to about $13,000 in our last wheel-a-thon. And so that was including the match. So those wheel-a-thons brought in the neighborhood, people who liked biking, people who liked helping orphans. We just had quite a motley crew of people. Usually about 100 people would show up at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning. It was pretty amazing. The girls are actually still wanting to be involved in Mukanzo. They're on the board. But I think they're just growing up, and I think the wheel-a-thon thing, they're ready to pass the torch on.
Okay. Thank you. I think another question, otherwise I think done. Yeah. Yeah, I was born and raised as Mennonite. And then my father used to tell me that wherever you go in Canada, just ask for Mennonite. And then I was in Montreal for 6 months, and then I moved from Montreal to Calgary. I didn't know anybody, but at the bus stop in Calgary, I asked the bus driver, so where are the Mennonites? He was so nice. He looked in the book, and then he gave me the phone number. He called. Actually, it was a Friday of the long weekend. So I went to the Mennonite Center for newcomers, and they took care of me. So
talk about your grandfather being the first Mennonite.
Yes, my great-grandfather was the second person in the village to accept Jesus as his Lord and Savior. So that's where it started as being the Mennonite.
And your father was a Mennonite pastor.
Yeah, my father, my grandfather, my father, so it's just generations of Mennonite.
So she's more Mennonite than lots of us.
Yeah. So we'll be back with